Hey mathematicians, it's Miss Bone here, and today I am going to give you some support in a skill that you're working on, which is placing whole number fractions on a number line. So at this point, you've gotten a lot of practice on placing unit fractions or even fractions less than 1 on a number line. Today, we're going to get some extra practice in putting those fractions on a number line that represent the number 2 or 3 or even 4. And some of you might start to understand how to put a fraction that represents 5 on a number line, right? So let's get some practice. Let me share my screen here. And the lesson you're working on has, there we go, you should be able to see my screen. The lesson you're working on has a number line in front of you. And the number line has the numbers. What numbers does it have on it? We see that number line, nice and big, has 2, 3, and 4 on it, right? And our job today is to be able to write 2, 3, and 4 as thirds, as fourths, as sixths. Maybe some of you will even start being able to write it as halves, as eighths, as tenths, because you'll see some patterns. But there might be some of you who are like, okay, I'm still struggling to put my fractions from 0 to 1 on a number line. So today, in order to help us complete this activity, you know what, we're just going to extend that number line. And we're not just going to do the 2, 3, 4 number line. We're going to start at 0, like we're used to, right? Okay, so we have a whiteboard here. And I'm just going to do what you all should be doing at home, which is drawing a number line that starts at 0. And notice my number line, it's a little sloppy, you know, I'm not going to worry about what the arrows look like. I'm not going to worry about how straight it is. I'm not going to get out my ruler. Oh, this number line has to be perfectly straight. Really, I'm drawing this number line to understand fractions. So it doesn't matter if the number line's straight, right? Okay, so we're going to start with 0. And let's put 1. And then remember that number line that's on our assignment. Click back to mouse here. Our assignment has a number line that also has 2, 3, and 4 on it. So let's pop 2, 3, and 4 on there to try to extend once we understand from 0 to 1, right? 2, 3, and 4. Just the regular old number line with whole numbers on them. Okay, so let's pop back to our assignment today. And we're really supposed to be able to put thirds, fourths, and sixths on there. And we see an example, we've got halves on there. So maybe some of you are still like, I don't really understand how they wrote 4 halves. Where does that go? Why would that be on 2? Okay, so let's just start from 0 to 1, okay? And we know, and change the color of my marker here to help it pop, we know that when something is divided into halves, how many equal parts are there? That's right, 2. There are 2 equal parts, and our denominator represents the total number of equal parts, right? So let's just leave the numerator alone. And let's just go from 0 to 1 and separate it into halves. 2 equal parts, 2. All right. And we know from labeling regular old fractions that this would have 2 as the denominator. And if we only have gone 1 piece on our number line, what would our numerator be? It would be 1. That would be a unit fraction. It would be 1/2. However, if we jumped another piece out of those 2 equal parts, how would we label that fraction? That's right, we would label it 2 halves, right? We would label it 2 halves. And so we understand at this point in our unit that 1, the whole number 1, is equivalent to 2 halves. If we took our number line and divided it into 2 equal parts and jumped both of those equal parts, we would be on 2 halves or the number 1. So now our activity today shows that 4 halves goes with the number 2. And I'm sure some of you are going, 4 halves? I'm not used to that. Now let's look back. Once our number line is divided into halves, it's divided into halves the whole way through. So I'm just going to go and do all of that dividing into halves. This is divided into half. Between 3 and 4 is divided into half. Between 2 and 3 is divided into half. And between 1 and 2 is divided into half. Once a half, always a half. It's not going to change just because you have more of them, right? They're still halves. So as we jump through this number line, we know our denominator never changes, right? Every fraction placed on this number line never changes. It's going to be halves the whole way through. Boom, boom, halves. And you know what we're going to do? We're just going to keep counting those halves. Just like we did when we went from 0 to a half, that was 1 half. But then when we jumped another equal part, we jumped 2 halves. Now, boys and girls, mathematicians, if we jump another equal part, another half, what are we going to call that? That's right. We're going to call it 3 halves. And you know what? If we jump another equal part, we just jumped another 1/2 piece. We're going to call it 4 halves. This is going well. Let's keep this rolling. We jump another half piece, another equal part divided into halves. We call those 5 halves. Keep it rolling. Another equal part. We're going to call that 6 halves. Another equal part. We're going to call that, you got it, 7 halves. And our last equal part all the way to the whole number 4, we're going to call that 8 halves. So a couple things to remember as you start your own number line today. You guys are going to go try to divide that number line into thirds, right? Couple things to remember. Once a third, always a third. So as you divide up that number line, look at that denominator. How many equal parts is it being divided into? That's right, 3. Thirds are divided into 3 equal parts. And boys and girls, once a third, always a third. Divide that number line up into 3 equal parts and just keep on jumping and labeling them. If you need to start at 0, you can do exactly what Ms. Bone just showed you how to do, so you can really keep on track. And we'll start that one as we finish off this little lesson. You're going to do thirds on your own. So if it helps, you start right at 0 and you just go to 1, 2. Today's assignment has 2, 3, and 4 on your number line, but you can just start at 0, take your other color and divide that number line into 3 equal parts. Remember, boys and girls, once a third, always a third. And just counting those jumps on your number line. Good luck.